We're going to go over a few common misconceptions that people have about solar that we hear from day to day. Now, the most common misconception that we get is we'll meet with homeowners and they'll say, hey, I heard that solar's free. And my first question when somebody asks me that is, when's the last time you got something for free? Right? If it's too good to be true, it's probably not true. Now, we never tell customers that solar's free. We never advertise that solar is free. Unfortunately, there are people in our industry that do. Now, what they're actually describing is what's called a power purchase agreement and or a lease, where yes, we can install solar systems on your house at no charge. You just get the electricity produced by the solar system at a rate that is discounted versus your utility bill. Now, that will save you money, and that's awesome, but just to be clear, you are paying a bill for the solar that just costs you less over time, but it's not free. Another common misconception is solar's too expensive, I can't afford it. It's a big one that we hear pretty often. And I'll just use the best example I have. When I went to put solar on my house, told my wife, said, hey, I'm gonna put solar on the new house. She's like, oh great, it worked great on the last one. Typical wife, how much is it? I said, it cost $70,000. She said, you're insane. We just bought a house, we just had a baby, you just bought a car, we can't afford $70,000. I said, awesome. Let me ask you a question. We currently have budgeted a bill of about $280 a month for electric, correct? She says, yeah. I said, all right, let me ask you another question. Can we afford to spend $20 less a month? And she said, well, of course we can, you're an idiot. And I said, awesome, well, that's what we're gonna do. We're gonna buy solar, we're gonna finance it, the federal government's gonna pay for a portion, the state's gonna give us money for producing clean energy, and we're literally gonna start off paying $20 less than we already would have with our electric bill. And over time, that savings is just gonna accumulate. So when people say it's too expensive, my other question is, can you afford not to do this? Customers will ask us, what happens if I move? How do I sell my house? Now, there are multiple articles that state solar increases your home value. The best article that I've seen is from Forbes, and they state that for every dollar that you save on an electric bill over a year, your home value goes up $20. So let's say you save $1,000 a year by having solar on your home instead of paying your electric bill. That means, according to Forbes, pretty reputable name I'd say, your home value would go up $20,000. So say fast forward 5 years from today, you sell your house, and in the meantime, in the last 5 years, you've saved thousands of dollars by having solar. You got a bunch of money from the state and federal government. When you sell your house, you get more for it. You'll be able to pay off the solar and keep the profit. Next one we hear pretty often is the government pays for it. And it's kind of true. They pay for a part of it, but just to be clear, they don't pay for all of it. And it kind of circles back to, is solar free? And specifically, when people buy solar for their home, okay? And say solar costs $30,000, the federal government will pay for 30%. And they get that money back in a tax credit. And how that tax credit works is, if you work and you're a W-2 employee and you're getting taxes taken out of every other check, at the end of the year, say you paid $25,000 in federal taxes, at the end of the year, you usually get a $1,000 check back as your little rebate, and then the federal government keeps the other $24,000 for all the great thing our government does for us, said in the most sarcastic fashion possible, right? Well, if you went solar, you would have got your normal $1,000 refund plus $9,000 towards your solar. So the government does pay for a portion, just not the whole thing. Another one that we hear a lot from homeowners is, I want to get solar because I want to have power when the power goes out. Now, that's a little bit misleading, right? Because the way solar works, it's tied to the grid. We are sending power to and from the grid. So technically speaking, if someone has solar, if the power goes out, the solar shuts down. Why is that? It's a safety reason. Because we're sending and receiving to and from the grid, if the utility company, say the grid's down and they have workers down the street working on the lines down the street from your house, and your solar was pumping energy back into the lines, it would kill them. So for safety reasons, if the power goes out, the solar has to shut down. Now the only workaround for that is to install a battery where you can store your own energy at your own house. When the power's out, that battery can discharge and you can use that energy. One thing we hear from time to time, not so much lately, is I don't want to go solar because I don't want my house to catch on fire. And my rebuttal to that is, A, in all my years in solar and the thousands of projects I've installed on homes and businesses, I've never had a system catch fire. That's not really a thing. But that being said, when we install solar, we have to engineer the project and have it inspected by the local township to meet specific electrical and fire codes. And one law that Pennsylvania passed years ago is we have to install what's called a disconnect. And we have to install it on the home, on the side of the house, in an area where the firefighters can walk up to the house and discharge the system. And that is specifically that if your house is ever on fire and the firefighters need to be able to run around the roof and poke holes in the roof or whatever it is they need to do, they can power down the system. That way it doesn't electrocute them. My favorite misconception in solar is that solar is ugly. And really, solar is just a social norm thing. As Americans, it's still a little bit new for us. Not nearly as new as it was 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 years ago, because we're starting to see it a little bit more, but it's new, so it's different. So naturally, people are like, I don't like that. Where the reality is, if you go to Germany, if you don't have solar, you're the weirdo. Again, it's a social norm thing. They're just ahead of us with technology. Now, I have solar covering the entire front of my house. And originally, when we first designed the system, my wife's first reaction was, oh, the front of our house? Are you serious? Aesthetics is very important to us. What do we do to get around that? We use black panels with black frames. We use low profile panels and mounting, and we put a little skirt at the bottom so it looks neat and clean on a house. Now, after it was installed, my wife's first reaction was, wow, that actually looks really cool. And the joke I like to make with customers is, you know what looks even better than the panels on my roof? And I haven't got anybody that's gotten that answer yet. It's usually like, what? Like my electric bill. I didn't put solar panels on my house because they look awesome. Now I'm biased, I do think they look awesome. I think it's a flex. I think it's telling my neighbors that I'm smarter with my money than they are because they're just wasting their money to the utility company. I put panels on my house because I wanted to see a return on money that I was wasting.